我把社会看特别，
你看什么透了你？你就看这个懒。
我上班去就挣那点钱，你干了半天累死你，你买不了一套楼房。这人生这一辈子怎么着啊？就短短的那么180年的事，还哪里不是？谁能活多少年呀？玩得开，放得开，歇了，吃喝享受过了，现在就是吃喝等死了，不行了，到时候剩下核弹，行了。
A 38-year-old strong man stays at home, freeloading off his elderly parents, relying entirely on them, now in their 70s, for daily care. After this was revealed in an interview, the 38-year-old manchild, Leeching, was immediately condemned by the public. People criticized him for being lazy and irresponsible. However, just 2 years later, Leeching's 3-story home was demolished due to city planning, and he ended up receiving a staggering 80 million yuan in demolition compensation. Looking back at this video now is dripping with irony. In front of the camera, Leeching sat leisurely on a rosewood sofa, smiling as he accepted the interview. A cigarette dangled from his lips, Buddhist prayer beads in hand, and he casually scrolled on his phone. Even though he was shirtless, he seemed completely unconcerned. The scene made the reporter realize that Leeching had seemingly discarded all traditional notions of propriety and shame. So, the reporter decided to cut straight to the point, asking how long he had been staying at home and pointing out that most of his peers had already settled down and started careers. Shouldn't he also consider finding a job? However, Leeching appeared utterly indifferent. He believed that the meaning of life lies in enjoying it and pursuing happiness.
你要这么做人，你自己等于是把你自己都废了。
这人生这一辈子怎么着啊？就短短的那么180年的事，还哪里不是？谁能活多少年呀？玩得开，放得开，歇了，吃喝享受过了，现在就是吃喝等死了，不行了。
Faced with her son's apathetic attitude, Leeching's mother gave the reporter a brief account of his earlier life. Only then did the reporter realize that Leeching's freeloading actually hid a rather heartbreaking past. Although Leeching only had a primary school education, he was known for being hardworking and dependable. In his teens, he left for Beijing to work. In 2004, thanks to his own efforts, he earned over 5,000 yuan a month on construction sites. It was during this time that he met his first love. The two fell deeply in love and quickly moved toward engagement. However, the girl's mother disapproved of Leeching's lack of education and demanded a bride price of 100,000 yuan. Although 100,000 yuan wasn't a small sum at the time, Leeching figured he'd entered the workforce early and could scrape it together if he clenched his teeth. Yet just when he was joyfully preparing for the engagement banquet, the prospective mother-in-law suddenly raised the bride price to 200,000 yuan. Already tipsy from the banquet alcohol, Leeching lost control of his emotions and stabbed her with a fruit knife. This incident caused his first marriage to fall apart before it even began, and led to a 2-year prison sentence.
我有回是喝了这么酒了，没结婚呢，连证都没有了，什么事都没有，呱唧，告诉我了，不成了，没钱了，没别的，我扎了2刀，齐了，进监狱。
However, after being released from prison, Leeching didn't sink into despair. Instead, he worked even harder and eventually got into a state-owned enterprise. Seeing that he was getting older, his parents arranged another match for him. But this second marriage ended up completely altering Leeching's life. This time, Leeching married a girl from Baoding. To be closer to her, Leeching gave up his stable, high-paying job in a Beijing state-owned company and moved back to his hometown to take a job that paid only a little over 1,000 yuan per month. However, this marriage didn't last long and soon fell into crisis. Leeching's brother-in-law frequently borrowed money from him, and his wife began cheating on him, flirting with multiple men. In the end, Leeching chose to leave with nothing.
第2次婚姻也是通过人介绍了，哎呀，咱们对法律这方面不懂，干嘛呀？啊，怎么了？咱住一块儿去了，那时候怎么了？得了，结婚吧，结婚就结婚了，结婚了可倒好，我在北京上班 他在涿州上班，我得了，就那么着吧，我说得了，回到涿州上班来吧。我从北京国企上班，那时候一个月拿5000多块钱，回到涿州来，我拿1000多块钱，我那么忍着，俩人慢慢也就感情不和，完了，开始也挺好的。第3年没别的，在城里租那么一间小房子住着，什么人都来，我也提去，他也问候人。今儿来了一个，那是谁？今儿来了，那是谁？我不说，我是干什么的？在监狱里生了，我什么能啊？离了。
After experiencing this failed marriage, Leon focused solely on making money and stopped thinking about relationships. But fate didn't favor him. After working for a year, the boss of the construction site he was on suddenly passed away. As a result, Leanne's entire year of wages was never paid. When he went to the foreman's family to ask for his wages, emotions ran high. He smashed their house and injured one of the family members. Leon was once again sent to prison. Although the sentence wasn't long, it utterly crushed his hope in life.
我的工资1分钱都没得着，我都懒得要了去，我烦了，没劲了。
没劲了就这么过。
我把人世间所有的都看透了，你明白吧？什么叫快乐呀？什么叫高兴呢？
All he wanted now was to return to his parents and seek their protection. Seeing how much he had suffered, his parents agreed, thinking he just needed some time to rest and recover. But what they didn't expect was that Leanne's rest would last 3 whole years. For 3 years he lived like a manchild, clothes prepared for him, food brought to his mouth. He didn't even want to step outside the house, only watching TV all day. When his parents asked about his future plans, he simply said he had seen through life and didn't want to be tied down anymore. Out of desperation, Leanne's mother invited reporters, hoping that media attention might help her son turn his life around. At that time, whether it was the reporter, his parents, or the TV viewers, everyone saw Leon as a cautionary tale. But 2 years later, when people looked back on that interview, they found that Leanne's attitude carried a certain artistic irony. Even knowing that a reporter was coming, Leon didn't bother tidying up his appearance. With a scruffy beard and not even wearing a shirt, he acted nonchalant. When the reporter asked what he did at home all day, he couldn't care less. When urged to find a job and reminded that his parents wouldn't be around forever, Leon emphasized that life is short. Rather than suffer out there working, why not enjoy life at home? If it really came to it, he could always just sell the house.
我非常清楚，现在资产你知道吗？我给变得明白，说这点地儿随便找一人啊，说我这套房我给卖，我都吃不清喝不清的，是吧？三口人，知道吗？卖给一大开发商，够我们家吃一辈子的了。
Hearing that her son was planning to sell the house, Leanne's mother became furious. That house was something she and her husband had painstakingly built by selling tofu. How could he talk about selling it so lightly? But Leon just laughed and said, "This big house is just for the 3 of us. Can't we at least sell half?" If that didn't work, he added, he could always dig a fish pond in the yard, grow some lotus roots and raise some fish.
我挖个鱼塘，我养个鱼也行。说那按不练，我愿意，我弄完了，我养个藕也行。
Seeing how Leon spoke with such grandiosity, the reporter reminded him that he needed to take action and couldn't just wait for miracles. His mother also scolded him, saying he just didn't want to work. But Leon merely chuckled and brought up his years of labor experience. No matter how hard the reporter tried, Leon remained totally unmoved. In the end, the intervention ended in failure. When the show aired, many viewers condemned Leon for being unfilial and predicted a bleak future for him. But no one expected that 2 years later, a piece of news about Leon would leave everyone stunned. It turned out that his village had been selected for demolition. After an evaluation by the government, Leanne's family received over 80 million yuan in compensation. Some said Leon had known about the demolition all along, which is why he chose to lie flat at home. Others said he truly had seen through life and chose a different path. But no matter what, Leon had finally achieved a complete and total lie-flat lifestyle.
Leon's life may look like giving up, but in truth, it had long been riddled with wounds. With only a primary school education, he tried to trade labor for love, only to be humiliated for lacking money and status, ultimately ending up in prison after a rage-fueled outburst. In his second marriage, he gave up a stable, well-paid job at a state-owned enterprise to accompany his wife back to her hometown, only to be betrayed and leave the marriage with nothing. The third blow came when his hard-earned wages for a year were denied. Failing to recover them, he was in prison again. This series of blows had long since crushed his belief in hard work. He said, "I've already seen through life." It sounds like an excuse, but if you really listen, you'll hear anger, scars, and a kind of resignation that comes from losing all faith in the world. It's not that he never tried or never dreamed of success. He was just beaten down too many times, and in the end, chose the simplest, weakest, and most thorough path, to lie flat. He laughed and said, "This life, well, it's just about eating, drinking, and waiting to die." Many people scolded him, but others began to wonder. We struggle, compete, work ourselves to death for what? He did nothing and ended up with 80 million yuan from demolition. You work overtime and squeeze on his subways, yet you'll still be paying off your mortgage for 30 years. You call him a failure, but reality hits like a slap, right on the faces of those who still believe hard work equals wealth. This isn't the world we want, but it's the one we live in. Maybe we can't accept Leon's choices, but we can't ignore this truth either. The world doesn't always reward effort. Sometimes it rewards the first one to give up. Do you think Leon is a wise man who's seen through life? Or just a loser defeated by reality? Feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. See you in the next video.